Thank you for tuning in to OCA Greater Houston's Happy Fest. Hi, my name is Yung Ngọc Nguyen, an OCA volunteer and moderator for this Q&A. If you're joining us on YouTube, remember that you can leave your comments and questions in the live chat. Now, please join me in welcoming our guests for the amazing short film, Halwa. We have Nirav Bhakta, co-writer and co-director for Halwa. Hello, and another guest, we have Vee Kumari, executive producer and lead actress for Halwa. Hello.
Hello.
It is a pleasure to have you both here today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I mean, Houston's my hometown, so this is a very special moment and festival for me.
It's fantastic to have this film in your hometown. It's beautiful. It is an incredible film about love and reconnection across time and space. It is a powerful film about representation as well. And yeah, I'm so excited to get started. So the first question that we have for tonight is, there were a lot of intersectional identities and issues that Halwa took on: the South Asian identity, domestic abuse, immigrant life, the role of social media, and so much more. What inspired such a complex script?
So the root of Halwa started from the lack of representation. Vee has played my mother in multiple films over the years as an actor. Actually, we all met on my co-director Gayatri's set. She had cast myself and Vee in her early film at UCLA, and since then, Vee and I have kind of been together on this journey, you know, playing mother's son all the time. And during one of like our filming experiences, Vee and I started having a conversation about representation and the lack of like authentic, meaty roles for someone like her. Vee and I also have been in the same acting class for a bit, and I mean, when she comes prepared, and she comes with challenging material, which is so refreshing to see, because you don't even see younger actors do the same thing. Yet here's Vee with this incredible stamina that comes to actually work and play. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? If I feel so boxed in, I can't even imagine what it's like for her, a woman of color over 50 in Hollywood. So at that point, I was like, Vee, I make these like silly zero-budget short films. I literally just pick up a camera and shoot something. I was like, let's do something. Let's like explore and, you know, create a new character for you. And we started playing like that. And then that's when I brought in my co-director, Gayatri. I was like, hey, like, we're thinking about doing something. We just want to play. Do you want to come on board? And while we started brainstorming ideas, we came across the HBO Visionaries prompt. And in the prompt, you had to use or utilize, I think it was like the modern, the Asian American experience in the modern digital age and technology or something. So we were like, okay, we have to incorporate some sort of digital technology. So this is where the social media platforms came in. And through this process, we just really heard Vee out and then heard her own stories out. And I'll let Vee talk about her experiences. But a lot of this, though it's fictional, you know, a lot of this came from our imagination, but a lot of it's rooted in our community and stories that happened within our community that weren't really spoken of. But yeah, there's many different moving parts. This like forbidden love thing. I've known neighbors here in Houston that like they've had arranged marriages separately, and then they've high school sweethearts, and then they've rediscovered their friction or love connection through like social media. So it's so interesting to me that these elder generations who might have gone through arranged marriages or whatever it may be, they're finding this like liberation through Facebook Messenger at all places. But yeah, we just kept playing with like different tones and kept layering it, and always kept flipping the script on its head to see how we can innovate, how we can be honest and truthful, yet still innovative with what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it's been just a few days since I've last reviewed the film, and it is so impactful. Like, still, it's just something that you stick with, and it stays with you, and it's a powerful film. I'm just so glad that I get to, and it's an honor to be here and
Thank
talking to
you.
you. And then we have a second question for Miss V. Miss V Kumari, as the executive producer and the lead actress, you portrayed the mesmerizing and strong Sujata. What ways of thought and inspirations did you pull from to perform this amazing role?
I I have to say, I think Nirav left it for me to say. Thank you, Nirav. I have to say, I did experience a short period of being in a relationship where the man was extremely controlling, and I luckily I was able to get out of it in 9 months. But I still, for a while, kicked myself for why did I even stay that long? And I had always thought that it's women with no education, women with no financial standing who suffer this kind of abuse. And I was totally wrong. Here I was with a medical degree and a PhD and totally financially independent. And I fell into the same trap. So I think I gave that sort of nucleus of information to Nirav and Gayatri. And then the rest of it, they actually, as Nirav said, created out of their own imagination. Even the layering of the forgotten love between the two women, all of that they came up with. And it was really very astounding to read the final script where all of this sort of played through at different levels. And so none of it happened exactly like it is shown in Halwa, but it was rooted in that one experience that I shared with Nirav and Gayatri. And the fact that it was 25 years ago and I had worked my way through it. And I would never now get into anything like that. I was absolutely uncertain. So that kind of gave me the confidence to play that. But, parts of it did come back to me, which I could use while acting the role of Sujata. So
Oh
it
my
did
God.
help that I had that experience, I think, bring
Wow.
Sujata to life.
Thank you so much for opening up about your experience.
You're welcome.
Just your history plays into your present, and it's created an art that the world cannot forget. Thank you so much. Just thank you. I think we have time for another question. This is to both of you. It's written in a way where it's kind of directed towards the director, but I'd love to have both of your interpretations and answers. The ending of Halwa was left open-ended. I want to say a hopeful ending, as she's unclasping her necklace and smiling as she's face calling her soulmate. As people who worked on the film, what do you think Sujata would do next? Will she stay with her abusive husband or leave and pursue a future with Pramila? What are the intentions as well for leaving such an open-ended ending?
In one of the earlier versions of the script, we had like a sequence where she actually packed up all her belongings and was ready to go. But then again, the truth of so many women that go through these circumstances are that it's hard to leave a situation like that. So it's like we did want to leave it open-ended, but we wanted to leave it with hope. We as directors and creators do see a reunion of Pramila and Sujata, but that's left to the audience's imagination. because Sujata's made her point, and she's finally found her voice, and she stood her ground. You know, when she took her makeup off, and she confronted her abusive husband, who, you know, she would cake on makeup for him so he wouldn't have to see her bruises. So when she finally makes that defining moment to be who she is, it's not just for the husband, but it's also for her lover. She wants to be seen for who she is. You know, any of us, if we ever wanted to be in love, or if we did find love, we would hope that we could be 100% our authentic selves in front of our lover. So that was the idea, that, you know, she gets to just show who she is, and without any pretense or anything. So yeah, I do imagine a reunion.
Also, in real life, any of these is a possibility for the woman. Maybe she would think, okay, now he gets it and he's not going to do this again. So she could be waiting for him, and they would reunite, and then God knows what happens. So that's a possibility. And the second one is, as Nirav said, maybe after this she would pack up and go meet her lover somewhere. So I think we left it open so that different people could identify themselves also with the possibilities that are, open again. You're the only one who mentioned the necklace. Very first time in all these screenings, you're the only one who noticed that.
Oh my
It
gosh,
does
yeah.
have a significance, because that
It
is
is,
something
yeah.
that we use in weddings. During weddings, the husband puts it on her. And if you remember early part of the movie, that she leaves it out, so the husband comes and puts it back. For him,
Yeah.
it's like a security blanket or a chain that he is putting around her neck. So taking it off was a hugely significant.
Yes, it's a significant moment. Yay! Oh my gosh, it's great to be able to. Anyway, so we have wonderful answers today. Howell is a great film that offers a lot of representation of the Asian American immigrant narrative, and so much more. And speaking about representation, even though these are uncertain times, it's important to remember that 2020 is census year and an election year. Filling out the census and voting are crucial to empowering our voices as Americans. Why is it important, even during lockdown, to do our due diligence?
There is $600 million on the line, or at stake, for the Asian Pacific Islander American community. And I think it's really, really integral, because that money is then incorporated into all of our communities, all of our nonprofit organizations and whatnot, our schools, our education, the future generations. It's highly, highly, highly important that we take the census. I grew up as an undocumented immigrant, and for the longest time that I thought that my voice did not matter. But it wasn't up until this year that I was educated that even as an undocumented immigrant, you can take the census. You can let your voice be heard without fearing that your life or your family's life may be at risk. So please take the census.
Great answer. Thank you. Awesome. I guess I'll move on to the last question. What upcoming projects do you all have in mind for the future?
Ooh, okay. So post HBO Visionaries, we've been quite busy, and it's been a really huge blessing, and I'm so grateful for HBO to even have a platform to put focus on the Asian Pacific Islander narratives. That doesn't exist anywhere else. This is a very, very focused competition and program. And I'm so, so grateful, because nobody else would have ever looked twice at a film like Halva. The reason why we made Halva was because of the lack of representation. So the fact that we were able to tell this very specific story and have audiences find themselves in that narrative was the most fulfilling thing for us as storytellers. and that's started a spark in all of us, that our authentic voices are what connect people, what connects the audience. It's not about how we look or whatever it may be. We may come from specific cultural backgrounds, but the human experience is the same. With that being said, I'm so happy that it's empowered all of us to kind of start speaking our truth and the kind of films we want to tell. I'm currently in the 2020 Camera Fellowship at Visual Communications. I'm working on a film called Thank You Come Again. Again, I'm barely exploring my immigrant identity, so I'm doing that through that work. I'm also in a program at CBS right now, working on an animated short for a nonprofit called School on Wheels that helps tutor homeless children in Skid Row. And beyond that, I'm continuing to explore immigrant narratives, specifically working on a feature, kind of like a love letter to the undocumented experience.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And what about you, Miss V?
I've had several co-star roles since I started acting in 2012. I retired. I was a Science University med school science professor. I retired in 2012 and started taking classes. And I've had some success. I've been a co-star on Glow and Criminal Minds and so on. But as I'm getting older, I am seeing fewer and fewer opportunities because Hollywood doesn't focus on older women, especially women with color. So I am totally determined to do stories about the Indian immigrants and particularly focusing on the older women. So I've now written a short story that hopefully Nirav and Gayatri will direct. We are trying to find a writer now. And so that's my next project. I also published my very first novel in March. That's also about an Indian American, that's a younger woman, a professor who is she's compelled by her sense of duty, which we call dharma, to find the killer of her professor. So that's just in a nutshell. So I'm so proud of that, and I'm starting to work on my second novel. But they're all going to be about Indian immigrants.
That's also exciting. You both are. I'm just so excited. I can't wait to keep catching up with you and possibly continue to see you guys in the news. And wow, thank you so much. Thank you and that's about all the time that we have for today. Thank you again, Mr. Nirav Bhakta and Vee Kumari for joining us tonight. Thank you. Remember to follow them on social media and all of that. So yes, I hope everyone has a good evening. And so that completes our short lineup. There will be a brief intermission. And after the intermission, we will be screening the last film of the day, Sugar on the Weaver's Chair, followed by another live Q&A session. So please join us back on Eventive if you're watching this panel from YouTube. So before we end, I'd like to acknowledge the current racial injustices, particularly against our Black communities. We hope to stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. So please remember to visit tinyurl.com, that link, to learn concrete Houston-specific ways to be involved. So we will also be conducting a special panel next week to discuss the current climate and ways we can engage and best implement our calls to action. So please stay tuned for those details. And thank you again for joining us at Happy Fest, and we'll see you in the next block soon.
We would like to acknowledge the grief and outrage right now, especially within our Black communities. Our city, Houston, continues to hurt. George Floyd was a native Houstonian, and according to the Houston Chronicle, we have had 6 police killings this past month alone.
As Asian Americans, we have to acknowledge and interrogate our own anti-Blackness and relative privilege within American society. We have to actively unlearn our own biases. It was Black activists who pushed against racist naturalization laws and supported Asian Americans after the racist murder of Vincent Chen.
Black activists stepping into action have benefited our community in profound ways. We must move beyond being a bystander and join the larger movement of Black Lives Matter. Join us in donating, protesting, petitioning, educating ourselves, and supporting our Black brothers and sisters in whatever way we can. Visit tinyurl.com/BLMAAPI, all caps, for more detailed ways to help, including Houston-specific bail funds, scripts to call local representatives, and translated letters to our family members, all of which you can join us in doing in between screenings. On behalf of OCA Greater Houston and the Happy Fest Committee, thank you for joining us on this podcast.